It's time to follow the money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204.
We're live in Vegas as always, South Point Sportsbook from the VSiN Studios. Win some, lose some in 15 minutes. John Murray, Superbook USA comes up in a half an hour. Right now, Pat Forde joins us, Yahoo Sports, the best there is, covering college football and college basketball. Pat, good morning. As always, thanks for the time. I want to begin with this. Not sure if you watched the 42-1 30 for 30 last night with Buster Douglas beating Mike Tyson, but a couple of things here. Do you recall what it was like when he actually knocked out Tyson for that monster upset? And I'll ask you this as well, trying to come up with an analogy of what would be that big today, because Virginia losing as a 16 versus a 1 last year in the tournament is not even close point spread-wise. What would be close in college sports? Like if Alabama had lost to Citadel when they were tied at half this year, is there anything even close?
You know, when you started talking about it, I immediately thought of UMBC Virginia. But as you said, even that may not have had that big a scope. You know, I do remember it, obviously. And I didn't see it. I don't even know whether it was on live TV, if it was pay-per-view, what the deal was. But I remember hearing it and just literally not believing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this absolutely cannot be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Because Tyson was completely invincible and nobody had heard of Buster Douglas. You know, he was cannon fodder in between fights against bigger name guys. And, you know, it was just the most shocking thing anybody had ever seen. And, you know, the really profound thing about it was what it did to Tyson's career. Because after that, his aura of invincibility internally and externally was gone, and he was never the same guy.
We came up with maybe Bama losing to Citadel, or if you get a conference tournament champ this year that would win 8 games and be a 16 and knock off Duke.
You know, I mean, I think Citadel beating Bama would have been bigger just because I refuse to consider it even plausible, and while they were tied at halftime, it still wasn't plausible.
Yes.
You know, so, I mean, I don't know where Buster Douglas ranked in the world at that point in time, but, you know, like I said, nobody had heard of him, that's for sure. I don't know what the heck analogy you could come up with. Yeah. Somewhere between UMBC Virginia, which was all but impossible, and Citadel, Alabama, which is impossible.
I see your point. It's one thing for a 16 to beat a 1. Virginia got blown out, Pat.
Got blown out. It was the most amazing thing I've seen in basketball. It's just incredible. I mean, that's following Virginia until they do something much different whenever that happens.
Yeah, so I'm watching that last night, and before that 30 for 30, it was the Bobby Knight 30 for 30. And I'll tell you, what can you share the story where this lunatic comes running right? Who asked that question? And he comes running at you, and you stood your ground. And what can you tell people what you were thinking at that moment?
Oh, yeah. No, I happen to remember that moment, as a matter of fact. It was February 2000. It was a game. There was some controversy between he and Steve Alford. That's all everybody been talking about coming in. He got asked a question about it, and he went crazy. And he starts, ranting, raving, cussing up a storm. And he leaves, and then he storms back in, and he said, and another bleep, bleep thing. All you people want to make a big deal about me not talking to Steve Alford at Big Ten Media Day? Well, there's 5 other bleeping coaches I didn't talk to. And I said, well, you were standing right next to them, Coach. And he just wheeled around and went crazy and said, where's the guy that asked that question? And that's when he starts coming at me. And I honestly wasn't sure what to do, whether to take notes or to drop the notepad and get ready to fight, because I really thought I thought he was going to physically accost me.
Oh.
And Pat Knight actually saved the moment by coming in and grabbing him and getting him out of there. But I really thought that I was going to end up in a fight.
Geez, was that the game where Knight came up and snuck up behind Alford?
Yeah, and smacked Sam Alford, his dad, in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
See, no, that's not an upset for Bobby Knight to pick a fight with a member of the media. That's actually the favorite at some point to happen with that guy.
Oh, geez.
Is there, by the way,
although, truly, he was better at accosting the people that he was supposedly coaching in terms of actual physical altercation.
Yeah, boy, has there been a more unlikable guy than him over the years?
Probably not. I mean, his teams were so great and fun to watch. And he coached well, but he was obviously fatally flawed as a human. And I don't care, all this garbage that people said about, oh, he's making amends. Yeah, right. Okay, that's what he's doing. No, he had an uncontrollable temper.
Pat Forde, our guest. The bowl preview is out, 40-yard dash. Read him every week. Follow him on Twitter, Yahoo Forde with Yahoo Sports, national columnist. Great job, college basketball, college football. A couple of things on the Heisman. Do you think it was prisoner of the moment that perfect storm, Tua leaves, they come back, they rally to beat Georgia, and Murray comes in and wins? But another thing, 40 people left Tua off the ballot? What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't know, again, what football were they watching? And some people may say, well, all right, quarterbacks, get too much credit, and that's partially true. But I don't see how you watch these particular quarterbacks and don't put them on your ballot. I mean, at all, 1, 2, or 3. I mean, if you watch them play and you understand how the game works, I just don't understand that in the slightest. I do think there was some prisoner of the moment, and also some rote probably devotion to stats, which did favor Murray slightly. If you prorate them to give Tua having not played really in the fourth quarter all year, if you extrapolate his to having given him some time in the fourth quarter, they're much more comparable. But yeah, I think prisoner of the moment was certainly part of it, and I will give Heisman voters credit for doing a lot more research than they used to do. But research can also be tricky. If you just look and say, his numbers are better here, and here than over there. Well, he also played in the Big 12, where there's less defensive opposition than in the SEC. So,
sure.
All things considered, I don't begrudge Kyler Murray winning at all. He was fantastic, deserves it as far as I'm concerned. But I did think that Tua got a bit short shrift. Yeah,
and by the way, so if you go back and look, at one point Tua had 25 touchdowns and no interceptions, and at that point he was probably the biggest favorite, maybe in the history, to ever win this award. But to your point, I think you absolutely have to credit the voters, because generally a lot of people will send in their votes way before the season's over with. They actually hung on to him this year, which is what should happen every single season.
Yeah, it really is. I guess I understand why the Heisman sends them out the Monday before they're due, which is obviously the Monday before the championship games, but I wish they didn't. It's all electronic now. You would think they could hold off, send them Sunday and bring them back Tuesday or something so people can't vote before then. Although, maybe that's over policing it. Maybe you should just expect the voters to be smart enough to wait until all the games have been played. Mm-hmm. I always wait till the last day. Watch the game Saturday. I got work to do Sunday on the playoff. Monday, I'm going to sit down. I'm just going to look at everything, try to look at it with a fresh eye, and then cast my vote then. I think that everybody should wait as long as they can.
The bowl preview has just dropped, the 40-yard dash. Is there a game you like with a pick, or also doing your research? Did you come across something where some quotes about you see a team that's excited to be there, or a team maybe could care less?
Yeah, from pick standpoint, I love Alabama. I mean, I think they're going to score 60 on Oklahoma. They're averaging 49, and if you look in November and maybe even late October, Oklahoma was giving up 9 to 16 points more to teams than they were averaging. I know they were better against Texas, but that was also a rematch situation. Maybe with 4 weeks to prepare, they'll be better defensively. They can't be worse. But I think Alabama's going to score at will. I don't think either of the semifinal games are going to be super close. In terms of motivation, I guess one of my big questions is Georgia. You come that close to beating, the Alabama, slaying the Alabama Dragon, to playing in the playoff. Now you got none of that, and you got to get ready for this next game. We've seen some duds from SEC teams in that situation before. Florida against Louisville, Alabama against Utah, Alabama against Oklahoma. And so, what do they bring to the table in that situation?
I don't have a problem with all these kids sitting out, and it begs the question: how long is this list going to actually get to? But what's next? Do you think it's a kid saying, I'm going to sit out the last 2 or 3 games? We're 6-4. We can't win our conference. What do you think? How do you think they'll react to this as far as the people who set up the bowls, or maybe even the NC2A, if there's anything they could do?
It's very much a dynamic to watch, Pauly, because where does that disconnect start? If you're Nick Bosa, it started in October, September, whatever it was, and Miles Jack, when he got hurt a few years ago, he left school. Now, he wasn't probably going to come back and be ready to play that year, but still, I think there have been some instances, and I think there will be more, where guys look and say, you know what? Yeah, no. And I think some people suspected that with Ed Oliver when he was sitting out some games, that was he really hurt or was he trying to save himself? There was even some speculation about Rashawn Gary to that extent. So it's a difficult situation for the teams and the coaches and the players to all try to navigate. What's the best thing to do and when do you do it? I don't like the premise of bailing on your team, but at the same time, it's really hard to tell players, hey, no, you should go play in this meaningless bowl game, or hey, like you said, we're 6-4. We need you to play in these last two games while we're playing out the string and then a meaningless bowl game. It's a difficult dynamic for them to navigate.
Is there any chance the NCAA could go completely off the rocker here, do something nuts, and put in fine print with a scholarship? If you don't play, if you're healthy and you decide to skip out, at a certain point, you're going to have to reimburse us for the scholarship?
It wouldn't shock me. Yeah. I'm not sure it would be as much an NCAA move as it would be school by school or conference by conference move. Then first of all, it's their scholarship. They can try to apply it at least like they want. Secondly, national letters of intent don't go through the NCAA. They go through the National Letter of Intent Signing Steering Committee. So, that wouldn't necessarily land on Indianapolis's desk, but it could land in conference offices. It could land on individual athletic departments, and it wouldn't shock me. I put nothing past college administrators, so it's not out of the question.
Two questions on coaches. What was it like in Louisville with the Braum story and staying at Purdue? And I'm surprised at the backlash that the hire got with K-State. It's like, what do you think, you're Alabama? It's like, to me, football's football. The guys winning national championships at North Dakota State. You don't want them?
North Dakota State, if you look at the Sagarin ratings, I think they're in the top 25.
Yeah.
They're incredibly good. I don't understand that either. And that goes back to understanding what Kansas State was before Bill Snyder. It was basically the worst program in America. It's not like he did an incredible job elevating it, but it's not like he turned it into Oklahoma or Nebraska or some of the other schools that were dominating in the Midwest there. So that really surprised me, because I think it was a very good hire. And the first question here in Louisville, people were devastated, absolutely devastated. They had really gotten their hopes up and thought Braum was coming, and I think Braum thought he was coming until that day. I think when it came down to coming in the office and telling everybody I'm leaving, he couldn't make himself do it. I think he does genuinely like it at Purdue. I think specifically telling the team would have been very hard, but specifically telling Rondale Moore, the All-American freshman who he got to decommit from Texas to come to Purdue, to then say, basically, I'm decommitting from you and I'm going back home to Louisville where Rondale Moore is from. That would have been a hard sell. So it was definitely a difficult decision, and it did gut a lot of people in Louisville.
fuboTV, VSiN, Follow the Money, Pauly and Mitch. Pat Forde, our guest, eclectic mix today. 2 NFL questions. Now, I'll tell you what's devastating. You go to San Francisco, you lay an egg. If you're the Broncos, oh, what was that? What a no. Can you put someone on Kittle, please?
That was atrocious, just atrocious. Look, that's why Vance Joseph's got to go. Yep. All right? And it's partially on locker room leadership, too, to have your team ready. They're professionals. This is not college where you need, you're 18 or you're worried about classes in between games. It's your job to get yourself ready and get your teammates ready. But that was just an atrocious coaching performance. They were not ready. The game plan stunk. The defense was an embarrassment. Yes, they've had major injuries. Losing Chris Harris, they've lost 2 of their 3 best players. Von Miller's okay, and he played terribly that game, by the way. Emmanuel Sanders out injured, Chris Harris out injured. That's 2 of your best 3 guys. But still, it's San Francisco. Go beat them.
Right. And he's done a nice job. But I saw you tweeted this as well. And these Twitter tough guys, you got to gamble. You got Frank Reich's decision not to take the tie. They'd be the 6th seed right now.
I know. No, they would be in. I've been harping on it this year because I watched it happen live. I couldn't believe he did it.
Yep.
I tweeted it, and I said then, A, what a terrible decision it was, and B, man, if they're ever in the playoff hunt, sometimes that half game makes all the difference. And everybody, they're not going to be. That's not a playoff team. He's trying to teach them how to win. And that's, and it's all these guys that think it's like if you always take the card when you're sitting on 16, no matter what the dealer's showing. You do it because you're a man. You're trying to win. So stupid. Try to not lose first.
Well done, sir. Excellent job. We'll always read you. We got the podcast, and we'll follow you on Twitter.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Pat.
I follow him on Twitter. Everyone should follow him on Twitter. You get stuff like that. He's right. Yeah, take it. I like that analogy.
What he said, though, was
hit the 16.
not every gamble is worth it or is a good gamble. It's not.
Uh-huh. Yep.
The correct play there was to punt the ball away, walk out with a tie. I mean, it sucks the way that game was going to end, but that was the only realistic right play that a coach could make.
What was the quote?
Logical play.
What was his quote?
I would do it, I think it was either 10 times out of 10 or 100 out of 100 times.
I didn't come here to tie.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what if you're at your own 5?
Yeah, for sure.
You're gonna
right.
Ties happen.
Yep. And would you do that in Week 17 if a playoff spot was on the line?
Another one. Mm-hmm. At Yahoo Forde, the bowl preview just dropped, and check out the podcast as well. I'll give you another. I forgot. Well, we were watching the game together. Remember when Harbaugh and Stanford beat USC, getting 40?
We got that on Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. But I get it. I understand in terms of numbers and what the math actually says. What about perception and how that plays? Right? Because Mike Tyson was absolutely indestructible. He was untouchable. He was the big. This is 30 years ago again. At that point, again, based on 42-1 last night, people were saying he was the best heavyweight of all time. Probably wasn't even close. Right? He just was a wrecking ball, and a guy against he lost to somebody nobody had ever heard of ever. Like upsets happen in college football. I get that.
Well, I'll say another thing. If you watch the entire game, you can't tell me that it was a big upset with what Baltimore County did. They kicked their ass.
Sure.
They were up double digits at the half.
Ran away and won by 20, I want to say, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I know you can come in 1 seed, 16 seed, and how that played out, but they totally dominated the game. And it wasn't like the Georgetown-Princeton scare where they need the morning block shot. It's like a fifth game played in the low 50s, but and Princeton has to play that tempo and slow it down and take the air out of the ball. But you're right, college football. But that was you're right about it. It was Tyson untouchable against some tomato can, and then
he was so big,
shocked the world.
Yep, number one thing going in the entire, probably in the country at that time. 49ers were great. That was right. Jordan's heyday was starting. But it was all Tyson, man. It's Follow the Money, Sirius XM 204 and fuboTV. Up next, Win Some, Lose Some. And I am seeing at least one place, faraway place, that's offering Big 12 to win 0 bowl games. How about that? We'll give you the number coming up next.
More of Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard is on the way. But don't get left out on VSiN's new Point Spread Weekly. Find out more at VSiN.com. Your search is over. You found Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on Sirius XM 204. Now listen up for Winformation.
John Murray joins us in 10 minutes. Manager, director over at Superbook USA. A lot to get into with him. We got to ask him, what would it take again to find, like maybe in a fight, right? 42-1 to 42 or 37-1 like it was last night with Douglas and Tyson. Here we go.
Rough night?
Can't call it a bad beat. Definitely lose some.
Good night? How does it make you feel?
I absolutely hate them. I absolutely hate them.
Follow the Money looks back so we can learn for today.
Everything's an adventure.
In Win Some, Lose Some. Let the education commence.
Lose some and bad for the books. Raptors Clippers under 224 down to 219. Fell 222. Raptors win, no Kawhi. Bad for the books. Georgia Southern 11.5 down to 8.5. Lost by 7 at Central Florida. Nova Penn over 138 up to 142. 78-75 Penn. First win over Nova since 2002, and it ends the streak 25 in a row. Big 5 victories for Nova. Predators 250 up to 270 beat Ottawa. That's 3 straight unders for Ottawa. 3-1. Although there were a lot of overs last night in the NHL. Lose some. DiFilippo out as OC of the Vikings, and I thought Mike Florio brought up, there's always one surprise firing. right? Mm-hmm. If they miss the playoffs, and all they have to do is go 8-7-1, Zimmer could be gone. The poker bet in the dark bathroom is over. The buyout, $62,000. The guy had to live in a bathroom for a month. He went 20 days in, and the guy who started the bet, he goes, okay, that's it. As he's delivering food to him, he goes, what's your out price? Let's go. And he was going to lose $85,000 because he had a small hedge before that. So the $100,000 bet, the guy wins. Alati walks away with $62,000, and he lived in a bathroom. No, dark.
Yep.
Dark. Nothing. They would have the food delivered in scattered times. He did it for 3 weeks.
Here's the crazy thing. Well, out of many crazy things with this bet, but we talked about it when we learned of this, that it was actually going to potentially happen, and said, how could anybody possibly in their right mind do this? I don't know, poker players are always in their right mind, but he was to the point of where he was 3 weeks in, and the other guy actually said, okay, I'll buy you out right now because you're going to do this, no problem. Like it was going to be easy for him to do this.
It's like the guy with the breast implants.
Right.
He goes, okay, you got him. I can't believe he did it. How much? I go, no, I'm keeping him.
Yep.
You're keeping him? Oh, yeah. I'm going through with it. I want the full money.
Everything about that.
He said, I'll give you, I think it was $100,000 to get the breasts. He got the breast. He had to have them for a certain amount of time. And he goes, all right, you did it. I can't believe it. I'll give you $50,000. So he goes, oh, no, I'm keeping them.
Yep.
I want the full money.
That's on.
And he still has them.
Still has them to this day.
Yeah.
And he won the breasts off a doctor playing backgammon.
Yeah. I got to finish that book. That is something.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great read. One more, the Raiders. Lose some. Raiders and the NFL. I don't know where they're playing next year. And it won't be Vegas, and it won't be Northern California after the city of Oakland sues them. And now we'll see what happens. And Davis not happy about the lawsuit. Joe Fortenbaugh months ago said San Diego, put it up. They'll be there in 2019. Either way, it's a debacle all the way around. That's win-lose.
All right. Stephen Powell on Twitter. Globally, you can find 0 bowl wins for the Big 12 at 14-1.
All right.
But if you just do a 7-team money line parlay, it pays right around 17-1.
Nice work.
Mm-hmm.
Nice work, Lou.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, it's like Bama's minus $6 on the money line. Mississippi State, I think they're a huge money line bet. Missouri's minus 360 on the money line. And you have Georgia minus 475 on the money line.
Why don't we just sit out the TCU Cal game and then go and just do the rest of them?
Okay. Because that's a pick 'em.
Because I like Vandy. Yep, I like Syracuse.
That drops it down to about 8-1 if you take that game out of it.
Yeah, okay. All right, good. I'm fine with that.
Where are they all again?
I'm fine with that. I like the prop to begin with.
So you like Vandy over Baylor. You like Syracuse over West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Definitely Washington State.
Over Iowa
Definitely
State.
Bama, Missouri.
And then after that,
Georgia, yeah.
Okay. So
I mean, you're loving life. You get the first couple ones in, the first 3 in. Then you're laying 14, 8, and 11. And Oklahoma State's sitting people.
How much do you like Syracuse over West Virginia?
I like it a lot now. I already bet that and the under.
Okay. I was going to say, because that's, no Greer. If you take that one out and make it a 5-teamer, that pays about 7-2.
I could see TCU with some turnover. I mean, that's got 17-10 written.
Oh, absolutely it does.
I don't know how that goes over
Yep.
unless there's shenanigans.
Sure, so that's a winnable game. I do like Syracuse, though. I'm with you to win that outright. Then after that, the 4 that could come in, decent-sized favorites.
I think Syracuse is going to be jacked up and fight. They had a good season. And Babers, I think, can, if you will, rally the troops and really get the, let's go. I'm talking about 9 wins. Let's go, right? They had a great season. West Virginia, look how it ended.
What if
they're thinking playoff, and then they lose at home. They had the tough loss at Oklahoma State, then they lost at home to Oklahoma. It didn't end well. I don't think they'd be excited for that game.
All right, a lot to get to with John Murray, director, Superbook USA, coming up next. We'll get into 42-1, the show last night. What kind of a matchup would we have to see those kind of odds again? And the look-ahead numbers. They have KC, a 1-point dog to the Seahawks. Why did they post that number for next week? We'll ask them coming up next.
More of Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard is on the way. But don't get left out on VSiN's new Point Spread Weekly. Find out more at VSiN.com. It's been between 2 and 3 minutes. You know what that means. It must be time for more Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on Sirius XM 204.
Thanks for checking in. We're live At the South Point Sportsbook, VSiN Studios, as always. John Murray joins the program now. He is the director, believe it or not, he's the director of Superbook USA here in town. Hey, pal, how are things?
Mitch, they're good, but why is that so hard to believe?
Well, I mean, the media, the rise from out of nowhere, right? All of a sudden, never had a label before. Hey, guys, call me the director. I mean, it's like, whoa, what happened? That was like a Mike Tyson uppercut. Never saw that one coming.
The meteoric rise.
Meteoric rise, yeah.
Did you guys watch that 30 for 30 last night, the Tyson one?
What'd you think?
It was good, I thought. I wish it had been a little bit longer, though.
We got that on Twitter, too. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
It was good.
What's your favorite Jimmy Vaccaro story? He only drinks Coca-Cola at McDonald's. He only owns white shirts, or he goes to Target every day.
You know, I talked to Jimmy a little bit yesterday, right before I went on set on VSiN, and he was telling me and Brian Rogers he just bought a new pair of shoes for $7.95, and he was showing them off to us. I thought that was really funny.
What kind?
Jimmy is a character, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you even recognize the brand of the shoes?
I didn't. Brian seemed to recognize them. But I wasn't really sure.
You know the last time you saw a movie in a theater? You know what it was?
No.
Star Wars, 1977.
No. 1977. You know that Ed Salmons, one of my colleagues at the Westgate Superbook, has never seen any of the Star Wars movies?
Mitch Moss either.
Really? Why not, Mitch?
Not my cup of tea.
Not your thing? Okay.
No.
I mean, I thought some of them were kind of silly, but some of the ones, the early ones, are pretty good.
I don't really like the sci-fi nonsense of movies. I've watched like two movies that I like that qualify, I think, as sci-fi movies ever. Like, it's like I hate that crap. Like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. I watched one Harry Potter. I went to the concession stand like 7 times. I went with my wife dragged me. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever watched. 5 minutes and I got to go.
Yeah, really?
Horrible.
Tough.
How it's so popular.
I've never seen any Harry Potter. I've never seen any Lord of the Rings.
Oh, you're missing out.
Really.
Lord of the Rings is good.
It's not my thing, Paul. It's just not It's not the kind of movie I like.
Get on board. How do you know? You didn't see it. Get on Lord of the Rings. It's very good. Very good.
I got no beef with people that like that stuff. I like Game of Thrones, and that's probably similarly stupid, right?
Yeah. Well, that qualifies, yeah.
Power rate your favorite holidays. I go Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July. What say you?
Yeah. Thanksgiving's my number 1.
Yeah.
Christmas is my number 2. I'm with you all the way there.
Sure.
Number 3, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that for a while.
Why do you guys let me ask both you guys this. You don't have kids, right? Why do you guys like Christmas so much to this day?
Love Santa.
What else is it? I mean, what are your other choices after Thanksgiving? I mean,
clearly Labor Day because football's back. I mean, that's number 2 on the list without any question, in my opinion.
Can I say the end of football season? I'll say Super Bowl Sunday because it means football's finally over.
Well, you could actually go New Year's Day, meaning, right, all those bowl games, and then, we're at the end of the regular season in the NFL.
I like New Year's Day. I'm not a big New Year's Eve guy.
Hate it.
Too many amateurs that never go out or out on New Year's Eve. Make it kind of silly.
Yep, so dumb. Okay, so going back to the show last night, what kind of matchup would we actually have to get to ever see somebody favored in a fight, like 1-42 and the take-back is 37-1?
Well, we had a fight on Saturday. Vasily Lomachenko, the Ukrainian boxer, he was 1-50 in his fight. So we do see it sometimes. It's usually not, or it's not in such a really high-profile event. You're never going to see that again in a really high-profile event because you'll get so much money on the dog.
Yep.
I don't really understand how the Mirage didn't get crushed on that fight. Because if we did something like that on a really high-profile fight, we would take so much money on the dog. So many people just take flyers on that plus that I'm sure we get nailed on something like that.
Well, it was also a different time, though. I mean, that's going back 3 full decades. I mean, imagine if the same fight happened today and some book actually posted those odds and it was 37-1. They would absolutely, and they kept it there for a while, they'd have to go out of business.
Yeah, even look at the Mayweather-McGregor fight. I know we've talked about it at length, but when we first opened it, we made it Mayweather minus 2,700, and Conor was 11-1, I believe, 10-1 or 11-1, and all the money came in on the dog, and we had to lower the price immediately, even though Conor really had no chance in that fight. I think the only way you could ever see an upset like that in boxing is if it is a heavyweight fight, because in a heavyweight fight, one guy lands one huge shot, and it changes the whole like the whole outcome of the fight can be rocked by one shot. You're not going to see that at these lower weight classes. Lomachenko's fighting at less than 130 pounds. He's not going to get upset by anybody at that weight class.
Well, it's also a testament to Tyson that the first few big bets that came in were on Tyson because he was invincible at the time. What's the biggest future ticket you ever cashed or ticket you saw?
Biggest one I've ever seen?
Yeah.
I mean, it would have to be this Vikings one, this Vikings to make the playoffs. The guy bet $240,000 to win $120,000 at minus 200.
Oh, man.
He's in trouble. He's got a serious
I don't think
sweat.
so.
Really?
I don't think so, Paul, because these other teams in the NFC, you look at Philadelphia, you look at Carolina, and certainly the Redskins, they're all falling apart around them. If you look at Minnesota's schedule down the stretch, they're a 7-point favorite against the Dolphins on Sunday. They're in Detroit next week. We have them as a 3.5-point favorite in that game. They play the Bears the last Sunday of the year. I think it's very likely that the Bears will be locked into their playoff seed in that game, and the Bears will have nothing to play for, and the Vikings will be a good-sized favorite in that game. Also consider this possibility. Consider the possibility that the Bears are locked into the number 3 seed, which is very likely. The Vikings would be playing for the number 6 seed, which would be a rematch against the Bears, and the Bears would likely play nobody and show nothing, knowing that they'd be playing the Vikings again the following week.
Do you know the gentleman that put in that bet?
Yeah, he's a very well-known house player of ours. I mean, we're not going to give a bet like that to just anybody off the street.
I wouldn't think so.
This is a guy that's bet with us for many, many years. We're very familiar with his action.
Hey, looking ahead, why I kind of get this, I kind of don't. The Chiefs, they play tomorrow night, and if they win that game, they're going to wrap up their division. But they're not going to wrap up the number 1 seed yet, so they still need to, basically hold off the Patriots, I guess, with 2 more games to play. Why'd you open up Week 16, Seattle -1 against the Chiefs?
Well, it's a really difficult game to make a point spread for because don't forget this. If Seattle wins on Sunday and they're favored to do so, Seattle also clinches their playoff berth. As the Rams have already won that division, the Seahawks would basically be locked in to the number 5 seed of the NFC playoffs, and they would also have basically nothing to play for the last 2 weeks. So it's a tricky line to make as you're looking ahead. Kansas City's favored tomorrow night. They would all but wrap up the 1 seed. Seattle's favored. They would all but wrap up the 5 seed. And it's just hard to say what those teams would be doing in Week 16 and Week 17.
When you put those numbers out, the early lines for the next week in the NFL, how many bets do you think you normally take? And it's only going to be sharp money that from guys that, for $1,000 or whatever the limit might be. But do you take a handful of bets every week?
The limit's $3,000, and it's pretty much exclusively sharp money. You're absolutely right about that, Mitch. It's funny, whenever we do well on those look-ahead lines, it means the book probably didn't do well on that Sunday.
Yeah.
Because it's all sharp bets. And if we do really poorly on the look-ahead lines and those sharper guys beat us, it probably means that we did very, very well overall for that weekend.
Hey, here's a prediction for you. So I'm looking at the Super Contest standings right now. Pigskin Junkies in first place. Overall record on the season, 52-18, 74.3%. Total points, 52. So on how you guys score this, right? He actually technically has a 0.5-point lead over Team Cleveland 1. But the funny thing is, at 50-17-3, Team Cleveland 1 has a higher winning percentage at 74.6.
Yeah.
Imagine if the guy who finishes second by 0.5 point actually has a better winning percentage. Will they bitch at you to change the rules for future years?
I mean, it's definitely not impossible. I don't know what you could really complain about. It says right there in the rules, 1 point for a win, a 0.5 point for a push. So, I mean, it's pretty black and white. But I would never put it past anyone to complain about anything, Mitch. You know that. So.
But okay, so let me expand on that then. Would the person have
people complain about they want to get credited for a win on let's say an NFL regular season win total bet. They want to get credited for a win on a tie in a game, and I'm like, why would that be the case? Mm-hmm. A tie is a tie. I'm waiting for the day when an NFL team finishes with 2 ties, and a guy tries to make the case to us that should count as 1 win.
1 win.
That would be fun.
That's going to happen at some point.
A tie is a tie. It's not a win. I don't even understand where people come up with that question.
To expand on my question, would the person actually have a case where the better and the entry in the Super Contest should actually be paid out to the person with a higher win percentage?
I don't think so because of what I said earlier. It's just right there in the standings how we score it. There's nothing in the standings about the winner having the highest winning percentage.
It's pretty nuts, though, man. Still 74.6%, 74.3%. At this point, with 3 weeks to go, they're still hitting at basically 75%. That's bananas.
You know, I was on with Brent Musburger yesterday. He told me he went 4-1 again last week. Brent is having a remarkably successful run in the Super Contest. And I even gave him a winner, boys. I gave him the Bears +3. An easy win on Sunday Night Football.
I saw that you tweeted it out, crowing about that.
Every time you win, you're like Floyd Mayweather. Every time you win, hey, look at another winner, fellas.
When I lose, I go dark.
Of course.
I don't.
Sure.
And then when I see Brent, I lower my gaze. I don't look directly into his eyes. But when I win, I just tell everybody about it. Everybody.
Typical John Murray move.
Yep, John Boy. The janitor at Vegas Murray on Twitter, fuboTV, Pauly and Mitch. How surprised were you with the Heisman result, which I'm sure you liked?
I wasn't that surprised because you saw the offshore market moving to Kyler being favored. But, I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit last week. If Kyler Murray won the Heisman, I said this last week, if he won, it would be the Heisman voters saying the only thing we're looking at is statistics. It basically tells me they're not even watching the games. They're just looking at the two players' stats at the end of the year and saying, okay, this guy was better. Because there's no way you can convince me that Tua wasn't the best player in college football this year. It's not his fault that he left the game at halftime almost every week because he was ahead by so much. And Kyler Murray had to stay in there for the whole game because his team's defense was so bad. They needed him to put up 50 points. Tua could have done it if he needed to. So I don't want to take anything away from Kyler Murray because I thought he had a great season. But I do think the voters got that one wrong.
I agree. I'm with you. I think it was prisoner of the moment. How was the UFC card? Any big bets on the UFC? Pretty good action? A lot of fights went over.
Yeah, not really. Nothing really too major in terms of big bets. I thought the performance by Max Holloway was just incredibly impressive. You take Brian Ortega. This guy is a stud featherweight fighter in the prime of his career, and Max Holloway just demolished him. The ref had to stop, or the doctor had to stop the fight at the end of the fourth round. Max Holloway, just incredibly impressive. Picked Ortega apart on his feet. It's hard to picture anybody beating Holloway unless he does move up to 155 pounds, maybe fights Conor McGregor or fights Khabib.
Do you like that idea?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'd love to see the fight. I don't think that Max has any competition now at 145. The way we had a lot of sharp money on Ortega. Ortega actually got to the point where he was like a -130 favorite briefly on Saturday. So I was very surprised that Max just destroyed him the way he did. I think for Max to have a competitive fight, he's going to have to move up in weight. His last loss was to Conor McGregor, but that was about 5.5 years ago. Holloway was only, I think, 21 years old at the time.
If they fought again at 155, who would win?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question.
Right.
I mean, I don't think Max could beat Khabib, frankly, but I do think he could beat Conor, and I'd love to see the fight again. I don't know. I think Conor would probably be a small favorite in that fight. I
was going to ask you that.
Be my guess, but it'd be a great fight.
How small? 130, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, the money would all come in on Conor.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that should be right around a pick-em. I mean, both of those guys have improved so much since their first fight. Their first fight was in August of 2013. It was the first ever event they had on FS1, right when that network debuted. So that's how long ago we're talking here. But both of those guys have gotten a lot better. I think Conor is bigger than Max, would still be bigger than Max. So, yeah, I'd probably make him like a -130, -140 favorite. But what I saw from Max on Saturday this past week, I definitely think he's capable of winning.
What would Khabib be if they actually took on Holloway? Would he be like $3, $4?
Yeah, Khabib would be. Well, those guys were going to fight in Brooklyn in April, but they called the fight off. Yeah, Khabib would be a pretty decent-sized favorite. Khabib is a decent-sized favorite over everybody. I don't see how that guy can lose a fight.
Yeah. How about this coming up here in Las Vegas, UFC 232, T-Mobile, December 29th. Any chance Cyborg loses?
I don't think so. I mean, it's a lot to ask of Amanda Nunes to move up in a weight class and take Cyborg on. We saw what happened. Joanna moved up in a weight class this past Saturday to fight Valentino Shevchenko, and she got smoked. Mm-hmm. And my guess is it's probably going to be something very similar. You know, they have weight classes in these sports for a reason, and it's hard to move up in a weight class and fight the very best person in that weight class. It's just too much to ask, I think.
Good job, John. Thanks for a few minutes. B+.
I'll take a B+, Paul. It's good to talk to you again. Hopefully I'll see you this weekend.
All right, you got it. John Murray, the John Boy.
He wants to hang out this weekend. Why?
We'll see you this weekend.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
well, who knows?
He doesn't really hope that. Benny Hanna for 4, by the way, soon.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we
John.
got LSU and Houston tonight. Not much going on in college hoops with finals and everything in the holidays. Houston's still undefeated, 8-0. They're laying 6.5. Their best start since 69-70 season. How about that? They've won 21 in a row at home, and LSU's 7-2. Houston's not the greatest guy. They beat Oregon, BYU, and Oklahoma State. The Brooks kid averaging 16 and 6. What a job! Look where that program was at, and they should have beat Michigan last year.
Yep.
With I forgot the guard's name.
Gray.
Yes.
Was it Rob Gray?
That guy, yeah.
Oh, he was so good, and they had a chance to win that game late.
Sampson doing a good job.
Very good job. Yeah.
That's under the radar. That they're in the rankings, but they're still unbeaten, and they got a big one. I'm surprised at the spread a little bit there. LSU's lost to Florida State and Oklahoma State, and then a good doubleheader on ESPN. OKC and the Pelicans. OKC a small road favorite, 14-1 against teams with a losing record, and the Pelicans are under 500. And then you got the revenge for the Warriors. It was 131 to 128. What was that? That was 2 weeks ago in Toronto. No Curry, no Green. Durant was Superman. And now they've won 4 in a row. I imagine Kawhi will be back as Toronto continues their roadie off a back-to-back. They beat the Clippers last night.
That was the game where the Warriors needed to have a 3 to push it to overtime.
Oh, yeah.
And Durant was driving in the lane. Then all of a sudden he came back to the left.
You know what he's going to do?
Corner 3.
It doesn't matter, right? Kawhi's on him.
That's
Hand in his face.
Kawhi Leonard, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA. Still probably the best guy there is on the perimeter. And he was covering him. He had no room whatsoever in his face the entire time. He knocks a 3 down. What can you do? 6'11" guy like that? Come on.
I hear you.
Yep. Follow the money. Sirius XM 204 fuboTV. Up next, Gill's going to join the set. Find out what's coming up in a numbers game. I believe it's Allen Boston Wednesday again.
Hey-oh.
Yeah. So that's going to be a fascinating listen. And we have some in-play action for tonight. In-pocket plays coming up next.
More of Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard is on the way. But don't get left out on VSiN's new Point Spread Weekly. Find out more at VSiN.com. And we're back with more Follow the Money on Sirius XM 204. Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard have the mics for the information you need to win.
All right, in-pocket time here. Raiders plus 4.5 going back to last week. Grab that against the Bengals. And I will have some of the conference plays that they have available, conference win totals for the Bowls at Caesars Palace a little bit later on today. We talked a lot about it on the show today.
All right. Chalk-eating mofo, but we've been moving the chains with it. Seahawks 5 against the Niners. Chiefs laying 3 tomorrow. Colts. I see Gordon's a game-time decision now.
He is.
Colts laying 3. Buckeyes in the Rose Bowl. SEC over 7.5 bowl wins plus 130. Big 12 under 2.5. $1.10 in bucket.
Mm-hmm. Gill is here. He follows us with a numbers game for the next 2 hours. Gill, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I don't mean to jump in and interrupt whatever you're saying. What was the Pac-12 number?
I want to say, was it 2.5 or 3.5?
3.5 over minus 140.
Okay, so not playable to you. Yeah. Were they 1-8 last year?
It's bad, yeah.
Utah got the win?
4-11 last 2 years. I like the under.
Yeah.
I like the under this year.
Definitely wouldn't play the over. That's for sure.
No, they have been absolutely brutal in bowl games.
All right, I'm sorry I interrupted.
No worries. I did have something at the top of my head, though, so I forget that. What was you have Allen Boston coming up today on the show.
Allen Boston.
All right, here we go.
Redux. Allen Boston Part 2. We'll do that today. We'll start it out, and we'll see where it goes. That's my only promise.
How you going to
see where it goes?
How do you game plan for this?
Here's what you do, Mitch, and I think you know from your previous conversations with Allen. You have about 4 questions. So again, I contrast it with my Michael Lombardi segment. Michael Lombardi, I'll have about 15 questions, and I'll race to try to get every one of them in 1 or 2 segments. With Allen Boston, I have about 4 questions, and it's gonna go as long as it's gonna go.
Like last week?
Yes.
Hour 15, and how many questions did you actually ask him?
3.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm serious.
Oh, my God.
No, I'm serious. We couldn't even get to, you want to get to college basketball eventually.
Yeah.
We didn't quite get there. So, we'll try to do that today.
You should ask, because he was big in the poker community for a while and played a lot of poker.
Yeah.
He did tweet about that bathroom bet.
He did.
Oh, he
Yes.
did? Okay.
Oh, well,
He had
now
an opinion. He had an opinion on it, too.
I think you just killed a segment or 2 right there.
Oh, that'll be great. Well, plus the stories he can tell about the strangest bets.
Yeah.
Alan likes to.
Oh, he
buy
knows all these
stuff,
guys,
so,
yeah.
That guy is still in the bathroom, as far as we know.
He bought outprice $62,000 out. It's over 20 days.
Oh,
the guy won.
He
won.
gave him a cash out.
Yep.
Cash out.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know there was going to be a cash out option.
Yeah, by the way, it wasn't the guy that was living in the bathroom. It was the other guy.
No, it's the other guy.
The other guy actually said, okay, you can clearly do this. He was 20 days in.
Out of just being charitable and just fearing for the guy?
Yeah.
You and I the three of us never talked about this. In a million years, I wouldn't try doing this.
Well, I would have no chance.
Mitch, I wouldn't get through 5 hours tops. And then I'd be like, all right.
Enough's enough.
I got to get into everything.
This is stupid.
Yeah, what was allowed? I mean, computer?
Nothing.
No,
nothing that emitted light.
Nothing. Oh, that's right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
No cell phone
you're
or
right.
anything like that.
Your bathroom was good. Food of your choice, I believe, was allowed. But nothing that would stimulate your brain in any way.
Yeah.
Yep,
He's
and
just he's staring at the wall.
Yeah.
Well,
you're not
trying to,
staring. You're
because you
trying
can't see
to.
anything.
Trying to make out
Yeah.
the wall.
Oh,
Pure
my-
darkness.
You know, when you go to Alcatraz, if you ever done the tour in San Francisco, there's one portion where they take you to solitary confinement.
Oh.
And they said to pass the time in solitary confinement. It's like the one thing I remember from Alcatraz. There are two
Okay.
things. The other thing is they and then they could see the lights of San Francisco. Like that was a big point of them. But in solitary confinement, what they said, the people who were thrown in there to pass the time, they would rip a button off their shirts, flip it up in the air, and spend as much time possible trying to find that button.
Wow.
That's how you make up ways to
Oh, my God.
stimulate your brain in a way that gets you through it. So, I mean, like, at some point,
Here was the beauty of it, too. When they would actually have the meals delivered for the guy living in the bathroom, there was no set schedule, so he could kind of get used to it. Like, okay, and this has been about 8 hours.
Oh, right.
They were separating the times, and they would bring it whenever they wanted.
Yeah, no. Well, I didn't know he cashed out. Okay, so 62,000. After he went 20 days?
20
20
days.
days, yeah.
Man.
That tells you the guy could have done it?
Good for him, man. I guess. I don't even want to say good for him.
Yeah.
Alan knows the guy who did the Des Moines one.
Which was the Des Moines one?
He had to live in Des Moines for a month or 2 months. The guy said, "What's the out price?" He lasted a week.
Same situation, bathroom kind of.
No. Anything you want, just live there. Can you live and survive in Des Moines?
In Des Moines.
He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He lasted a week. He goes, "This place sucks." Get me out of here."
Apologies to everyone who lives in Des Moines. That's
No
terrible.
I love that.
By the way, what was the overall feedback that you got from him? And he's the perfect guy to have on radio.
On Twitter?
Yeah, that and what you heard as well, because people are either going to hate him or they're going to love him.
I got 99.98% fabulous public reaction to it. It's in places you would least expect that I got some tweak from it. How about that for an answer?
Really? Mm-hmm. Got to ask you about that off the air.
The people love it.
Okay. All right.
We trying to be great or what?
Sure.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
All right.
So Boston's coming up next. It's an absolute must-listen with Gill on a numbers game. We are back tomorrow, 7 Eastern. See you.
Thank you.
More of Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard is on the way. But don't get left out on VSiN's new Point Spread Weekly. Find out more at VSiN.com.